Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to another episode in ARK Survival Ascended. Today, we're having the finale of the Jurassic Park event that I've hosted for my community, and we'll have some videos on the full tours of all the builds we've made here. But today, we're having the final rave showdown. As you can see, this arena was built by Nessa and Wild, and today, I'm basically challenging the community to, well, survive in different waves. We started on foot, and of course I started easy on them with just, you know, some of the smaller tames, just seeing how good they can now defend themselves after weeks of surviving on Jurassic Park. And they should be well equipped by now to survive some of the horrors that they'll face today, because we have been facing loads of these horrors over here on this custom events server. So yeah, as you can see, they're running around mostly using shotguns here to defend themselves against all sorts of little critters, but it is soon to be ramped up and yeah, go crazy. So basically the final event was them doing a wave defense game on different tiers. So starting on foot, just using whatever weapons they had. Then we'll have different tames each rounds that they can use and that they will face. So, you know, we finishing up this first round with a little stronger tames, seeing how their shotguns are pretty strong. You know, had to test them a little bit more. Some people got launched, but yeah, you know, it's all fine. Gotta challenge themselves. They got to prove they can survive after weeks here on this event server. Jurassic Park, you know, it's not for the weakest. You need to be clever. So the second round was raptors, and they also had to fight a lot of raptors. But yeah, so now everyone is on raptor back. So we'll take it up a little bit, seeing what they can take. They did survive the big raptor back, but of course, you know, some breeding, some imprint really helps a long way defending against the hordes. But, you know, I had some fun giving them a few more surprises. Still nothing too crazy, of course. Still early game. But, yeah, I mean, I gotta challenge them. Gotta see if they've brought some worthy raptors after these weeks that we spend over here on Jurassic Park. But as you can see, they still did pretty well. They did pretty good here. We have some little skirmishes breaking out all over the place now, though, and some cheeky shotguns still being used as well. Then we moved on to the next round. This was Theres, I think Carnos and Ceratos, stuff like that. Basically that kind of tier was for this round. So moving up a little bit more also means, of course, stepping it up a little bit with what I will be sending their way for their defenses. As you can see, facing some Spinos and other bigger creatures to see, you know, how well they can keep it up. I see some Dinosaurs. I think Dinosaurs were one of the options as well. Basically a bunch of creatures to try and defend themselves against. And you can see the waves are ramping up slowly but surely. We'll try more and more to see if we can get some of them killed. And, you know, that might work. But these, so far, they're doing pretty well. I'm also, of course, only spawning things without saddles, without imprints, so it's a little bit easier for them. But we will ramp this up. As you can see, got some bigger creatures in there, got some Rexes in there. Gotta test these Theres, and of course, these are probably boss-worthy Theres, or at least close to. I don't know about the saddles, but some pretty good creatures. Of course, we also have some modded creatures, especially all the paleo mods. Got the new Ledu here fighting, which is a pretty cool new creature recently released. That is pretty strong. Got some pretty fun abilities that we'll see much more of soon. So yeah, we're just continuing. I think this is nearing the end of this wave as well, so we're spawning in a little bit more just to really test them. You know, got to challenge them a little bit, because so far they're handling it pretty well, and we at least want to challenge them a little bit. So I think there's some alpha raptors in here. There's, of course, a few Rexes, a few Ledus that can do this big thunderclap ability, which is quite cool because that stuns you and your team. So quite a useful thing and quite a dangerous thing to fight against, which, you know, had some fun with that for sure. But you can see they're still doing pretty well. They're still taking care of pretty much everything quite easily. So I think it's time to move on to another wave. So time to move on to the next tier, which was trikes, not the normal trikes that you're used to, but the improved version by Clay, which is some really cool trikes. The greater trike especially is very strong, more on par with a Rex, which is really fun to see, you know, some herbivores actually very capable of fighting and defending themselves, which, you know, makes for a more fun experience, I think, if there's more alternative to just going for that Rex kind of by default. Lots more to do, and as you will see, these strikes are not to be messed with because they're actually quite strong and they're handling themselves very, very well. So, you know, decided to test them a little bit more. Some Gigas here to really challenge their strengths, and yeah, the Paleo Gigas have some really cool movesets, so they are launching some of these strikes up into the air, as you can see. But even though I really tried here with spawning a bunch of these Gigas, it didn't really help too much because they still got the best of these Gigas in the end. But hey, at least we tried. At least we tried. So in the end, yeah, the trikes are pretty strong. They're facing down with some Lidus, trying to, you know, at least use that stunt ability in combination with the Gigas to see if that works. But yeah, the trikes are pretty strong and pretty tanky, so hard to get anything in. But the stun ability definitely works if there's, you know, enough big baddies out there. As you can see, there's Karchers now, there's some Gigas there, there's Rexes, there's Spidos. This was really the final stand here, setting up for these strikes. But they still seem to be handling themselves quite well, in fact. You know, they're very strong, as I said. It's really fun, though, you know, having a herbivore that's actually very capable of defending itself as well. Yeah, it's a good change to the normal game. So the next round was Stegos. So seeing how well Stegos can defend themselves, I set up a first wave that was already pretty spicy here with a bunch of Karchers. We have some Raptors jumping in from the top. We have some Lidus again with the Thunderclap ability. I think there was some Dinosukas, some Rexes, and Fassos, I think. A bunch of things basically to try and weaken their defenses and mess them up a little bit in any way possible, but still they took pretty good care of everything. There's still one trike in there as well, you know, so they have a little bit of extra damage because they are very strong, as I said, so they definitely help taking care of things. But at least, you know, it took them a little longer to clear out the waves this time. You can see all the way at the back, someone's just facing off by themselves against two Karchers whilst everyone else is working together. Kind of sad in the background there. There we go. We got some new waves coming in, some new Crocs arriving from the sky, having some big bites out there. We have plenty of other things coming in as well. Some Gigantoraptors there. You know, just trying to spice it up, trying to find something to really challenge them. I think that's some Alpha Raptors there to really just spice things up a little bit, change things up. Get some Rexes, you know, trying to challenge these Stegos without making it too hard, of course. You know, it has to be fun to play with, but to be fair, for this arena experience, I think it was quite a fun event and probably something we'll try to do more often and maybe improve on in the future. But you know, it's quite fun, especially for me, because I'm just seeing, you know, what button should I press, what should I spawn in this time. And yeah, we've got some of the Diamantinas in here, really cool modded creature too, trying to fight those Stegos, and once again they split up a little bit. Someone is again bravely fighting by themselves here in the foreground whilst everyone else is on the big heap in the background, and yeah, just trying to get to get that fight going. As you can see, there's also heaps of bodies now, which turned out to be a real challenge in some of these rounds, where if you don't have a creature that can actually clear the bodies, it gets quite messy. But of course, I'm very happy to help with that, so I spawned some creatures in for them to make sure we could clear out the bodies and hopefully, you know, hopefully of course not cause too much damage. I wouldn't want to kill my own community. That would be very cruel indeed. But yeah, so far they seem to be handling the wave pretty well. Stego's getting a bit bloody, of course, but still they've managed a very good job here, clearing out pretty much everything I've managed to throw at them. So yeah, a very nicely defended round here. And even in the end, when I decided to bring in some of the bigger guys, the dreads, even those, they seem to handle quite well. And it was actually really fun because they get proper knockback from this guy, of course. So they get knocked around the arena quite well with these dreads waving around, which is always fun to see. Yeah, just casually the dreads, of course, with their slow attacks, but they do quite a bit of damage. The Stegos are a bit bloody now as well, but of course I can't show any weakness, any mercy for them. So hopefully, you know, we have a bit of a challenge for them, but so far they seem to be handling it quite well, although also some cheeky weapons being used to take care of some of these bigger creatures. But still, you know, they're doing quite well, as you can see by the heaps of bodies all around the arena. I'm trying to get this Karcher to do a little bit of cleanup before we go on to the next round. But yeah, they managed to take out the dreads, so that's quite impressive. I think some of them did get stuck in the dreads, however, because those bodies, you know, very large, take up a lot of space, and it's not fun to get stuck in them. But yeah, you can see slowly clearing some, whilst they're also clearing out this last Karcher. The next round was the Brekkies, which are really cool creatures. I can't wait for these to become official. I think there's one of the addition creatures that is coming to the main game at some point, probably next year, hopefully next year. Would be really nice, because as we find out in this round, they're pretty strong. So starting off against some other Brekkies, some Damantinas, I think some Lidus as well. A bunch of creatures here to try and see how strong they are. We got some of the Wax Spinos, which is basically a giga-tiered Spino based on the one from Jurassic Park 3, which is a really cool creature. But yeah, they seem to do pretty damn well here. As you'll see, they are very strong creatures, and of course just very large and impressive creatures as well, standing on their hind legs. It's quite fun to see them fight like this. And yeah, they were surprisingly good. Like, they really were able to handle themselves for a very long time against a lot of really cool and strong creatures. So yeah, Brekkies are definitely gonna be a really nice OP creature, although I mean they are very big, so they can probably not really go to many boss fights, but maybe for the Titans they might end up being very useful. So here we got some Karchers coming in, trying to break the wave of the fence of these Brekkies, but I don't know why, but the Karchers started running away, so had to get some backup there. Seems like also the chicken is stuck in one of these Brekkies at the bottom right there. But yeah, these Brekkies, they know how to handle themselves, guys. Like, they are very strong. So yeah, hopefully we'll get them sometime next year. And here I decided to help out the chicken a bit, getting some cleanup over there. They didn't really seem to understand what they needed to do, although this one Rex eventually got around to doing what he was meant to do, although he was more interested in the chicken itself rather than clearing up the body. But he did clear up the body in the end, which was what he was meant to do. Of course, he was definitely not meant to go after the chicken, you know. It's just cleanup crew, just a cleanup crew. But as you can see, these Brekkies are really strong. They seem to take care of pretty much everything. So it's time to throw some of the bigger, better creatures out there. We got some Gigas coming in. We got some more Carchers coming in. But even those seem no match for an army of Brackies, which is quite cool to see. It's very cool to see. I'm a sucker for creatures that you might not use that often, or you might not expect to be so useful, because on this event we did a lot of that, using creatures that normally maybe you pass on, you go to the stronger creatures. We used raptors for a long time, carnos, and even galleys I've used a long time on this event, which is very fun. In the end, I started to really challenge these Brackies with some bosses. So we got the brood mother out here, we got some monkeys out here, but none of them seem to really be a match against the Brackie. The one trike did struggle a little bit, but yeah, the Brackies very, very, very strong. Actually insane. So the next round was Rexes, Lidus, and Pyros. I think this was a bunch of creatures that they could use, and yeah, of course, that is very fun. The Lidus, you can see the chicken on the Lidu, means that they also have now the Thunderclap ability to stun the enemies, which slightly problematic and annoying for me trying to spawn things in. I had to watch out now not to get stunned myself, but they are very cool creatures. You can see the electricity building up, which is, it's just such a cool and unique creature. If you have the chance to play around with them, I really recommend it, because the Paleo team always delivers high quality. You can see Thunderclap coming in, so a bunch of stunned creatures right away, which is, yeah, really useful. And actually, I think that Thunderclap, or one of the Thunder abilities, can actually wake up your knocked out tame. So if you've accidentally done some cryo sickness, these are really helpful too. Besides just being real cool creatures anyway. But yeah, they seem to be quite strong. So in the end, I decided to give a little bit of the Jurassic Park spice with some Moro Rexes, of course, based on the Indominus Rex from the Jurassic World franchise. And yeah, they are quite strong. But they put up a good fight here. They put up a good fight, but they are very strong creatures. They take reduced damage, so they're quite scary. And I decided to spot a pair as well, just to really challenge them. Luckily for them, the stun did seem to work the first time, which is really nice. I did not expect that to necessarily work on these creatures. But yeah, they are very strong. They are very tanky. So it is a very good challenge, and it's of course one of the tiers we're working towards with this challenge out here. But as you can see, they managed to do a pretty decent job. Things are getting bloody though. This was getting closer and closer, as you can see, and they keep getting surrounded because the Moro Rexes smartly didn't stay too close together, so there was always space between. You can see the Lidu dying here, chicken flying away. So yeah, things are getting low. These Rexes do pack a punch. These walls a really close fight in the end. You can see things getting knocked away. But yeah, they're holding strong. One of the Moro Rexes is already pretty bloody at this point, but they have a lot of cool and different abilities, so they are quite a challenge to fight. If you want a challenging experience, they definitely offer that. You know, coming across these in the wild, they can go invisible and everything. It's quite the sight. It's quite the experience to run into. But in the end, they managed. So moving on to Gigas, Carchers, and the Whack Spino, the big Spino, which is really cool. So things are about to get busy. They're about to get crazy, as you can see. We got a bunch of Gigas in here. We got Carchers, we got the Whack Spinos, and basically everything in between. And this is where the big challenges are coming in, dreads and everything. Yeah, trying to really offer a challenge for the biggest creatures on the ARK, and this is exactly why this arena was built for this size, because you can see how quickly this arena gets filled up with these big creatures out there. But yeah, they handled themselves pretty well, as you can see. Things are going pretty well so far. Even the dreads, which, you know, are of course aimed for these kind of creatures, didn't seem to hold up that much of a fight. So, you know, we'll just try it again. Why not one? Why not maybe a second one? I think I'm spawning a second one here in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Getting some more dreads in there. These are also the paleo variants for the dreads, which look really, really cool. Very nice textures. I mean, yeah, the paleo team usually does an amazing job on their creatures, and it really shows. They're always really cool. Got some gigas coming in here to rampage, and some more dreads. But to be fair, they were doing a really good job taking care of things. I mean, not surprising, of course, using all giga tiered creatures. There's a lot of damage being output here. Lots of damage for sure. Like, without the cinematic camera mode, there would be a lot of damage numbers here. Lots of damage numbers, but at least we've moved away from the big bodies being left everywhere. Everything's getting eaten now. The dreads did put up a little bit of a fight, but in the end, not really a match against all these bread imprinted, you know, strong creatures. So no matter what I did, even though I really tried, also with a bunch of whacks, we have like breeding ability or bleeding abilities and stuff to really, you know, try to do a decent amount of damage. They seem to be able to take care of most of these things relatively easy. In fact, so easily that they decided to get a little bit cocky as well themselves. So in the end, I decided to give them a little taste of something they asked for themselves. But first, we'll challenge them to some more Moros. You know, I was trying to find something to really give them a good challenge. The Moros did pretty well in the previous round, so I decided to see how well they would fare against these giga-tiered creatures. They did alright. They did alright, but of course, there is a difference between like the normal creatures and even OP creatures and the giga tier, because yeah, everything is pretty strong at that tier. But at least they're up for a good fight. They're up for a good fight, and especially, you know, with a good dreader to back them up, it helps. You can also see a little cheeky chicken here at the bottom trying to get some healing in, because he did get some pretty big damage fighting some of the other whack Spinos, but you know, that's fine. You can take a little break to heal. Yeah, we got some more creatures coming in, but I think around this point was when, you know, they got a little bit cocky, and I think someone joked about we should have a giga chicken, of course, because we have our own very own little chicken in here. So I decided, oh, I can do a giga chicken. You know, a Dodo Rex is pretty close to a giga chicken, right? Although at this point I was spawning things in around level 500, which of course it doesn't translate very well to a Dodo Rex, because it did have insanely high stats. So you've seen them taking on these challenges, taking on these waves rather well. Things are about to change a little bit, because this turned out to be a very big challenge indeed. The Dodo Rex, besides of course also doing fire damage, which was already pretty strong, also just had I think 11 million health or something. So it was very tanky, and did a decent amount of damage output. As you will see, it's doing quite a good job at well, stressing them out and killing one of the wax Spinos here. There's also still a dread in the fight. Somehow they did manage to clear out everything else, but yeah, this Dodo Rex really changed things. So in the end I decided, you know, you can bring in more backup creatures if you want to risk that. They did. This effect went a little bit wrong, because if you have multiple paleo gigas, they go rampage and they also attack each other, like also your own tribe. So this didn't really work for them that well. But yeah, the Dodo Rex turned out to be a little bit too strong for this fight. But they did put up a valiant battle. But yeah, if you were ever wondering, Dodo Rexes, don't spawn them in at level 500. That is a bit too much. It's a little too strong. They don't need to be that strong because they're already pretty strong by themselves. But I mean, it did perform for, or did cause for some really fun arena play. Of course, this is a proper battle now, a proper fight for survival, trying to get this Dodo Rex killed, which wasn't an easy feat, as you can see by the sheer size of the army that has now arrived to try and combat this. But in the end, nothing really did the trick. So rather than really just wiping out everything they brought to this arena fight, we decided to call it a day with the Dodo Rex. Bit too much, bit too spicy, and time to move to the final round of the arena fights, which of course could only be one very Jurassic themed round, and that is of course the Moro creature. So the Moro Rexes, the Moro Raptors, yeah, everything from the Jurassic World franchise. Pretty cool creatures, pretty OP creatures, scary to come across as survival. These have been haunting them for the entirety of the event, and now finally they can use them themselves in battle as well and face off against some more of these creatures. And of course, also adding to the challenge, we have two Broadmooders here, two Alpha Broadmooders, putting up a decent fight actually. But yeah, these Moro creatures are pretty insane. They are very, very strong. Although this did take quite a while, so I did cut down this because, yeah, even though the Moro Rexes did a good job, 2 bosses is a lot. But in the end, they did actually manage. It was looking a little close for a little bit, but in the end, they managed to get through. They did some smart healing because these Moro Rexes can also heal themselves rather quickly if you take a little bit of a break. So helps with getting things cleared. So in the end, we have some more fights against some of the Moro Rexes and Moro Raptors. And yeah, there wasn't really anything to stop these creatures, unless, of course, releasing another Dodo Rex. But I think we've had enough of that guy for sure. So we have a few more of the Moro creatures coming in here. They were all nearing death at this point, or at least semi-close to death after the bosses. So I didn't want to just wipe them out. You know, that would not be a fun end to these fights, but in the end we did have a really fun time on the arena. And this is one of the examples of the many mini games that we have and that we play during these custom events. Normally, of course, I just have a normal cluster with all of the maps, but every once in a while we like to do these custom events that have a theme. We did the Western event, we now did the Jurassic Park event, and we'll sure to be doing many more events in the future. So if you're interested in joining one of these in the future, join my Discord, join my cluster, and then you'll see for yourself whenever there is a new custom event going on. But even on the cluster, we try to have fun events like this every once in a while. But yeah, they did succeed. They did survive the shark showdown, the wave rave showdown. Yeah, very nicely done. And then before I end this video, I also have some footage from a previous event that we did here. The previous week we hosted a race, of course going back to my monarchy days earlier this year. I built a racetrack on one of the islands here on Ragnarok, and we decided to go around and race some cars in that. It's always a good opportunity. I mean, the Battle Wreck's probably not the most useful thing in normal survival playthrough, although it's a quick way to get around, but it is very fun to race against some other people. So if you can get a few people together, you can build a racetrack, it's very fun to do. So off we go for the first race. We decided to do 2 sorts of races. First time is just basically to get to know the track, get to know the battle rigs, because they're very fun, they're very flawless, of course. And it's always just a good time. I built a track on one of those new islands. This is the new island near the Highlands, which is, you know, rather big island. Plenty of space here to build a nice track for some car racing. going on here. And you can see the typical chaos of a race start. This really brought me back to the motorkey races, which were always a very fun experience to do. All right, you know, it's just fun to drive around in some cars. Of course, it's more fun if there's more people around you. Is it a little bit glitchy sometimes? Yeah, but to be fair, they have much improved since launched, and yeah, no one was lost to the mesh. Nothing exploded as well, which is great. Helps that we're all in the same tribe, so we can't really explode each other, but other than that, it was a very fun experience. If you know what you're doing, I'm not really showing off like I'm knowing what I'm doing, but I promise you, great at driving in general. Just really rough terrain here. Somehow we're all still pretty close together. It's a very bumpy track over here, as you can see. It doesn't help that we're already halfway sideways, just driving around these the sides of these islands, but you know, it's alright. So this track is a combination of, like, you know, some jumps, some ramps, etc., and then some other obstacles as well to try and make it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun with the community just racing each other. I think we had about 8 people maybe racing in total, which, yeah, definitely was a nice fun experience here. And you can see me going in for the chase over here, trying to catch up. Some parts of the tracks, there's also multiple ways to go. There's not really necessarily always a better way or worse way. It's just different ways to go, just to make sure that there was plenty of options for, you know, tactics or just luck, I suppose. Somehow we all decided to take the exact same bit of track here, though. That's why it was very crowded over here. But, you know, all in all, I think it was a pretty fun racetrack. As I said, it's just always a really good time. I think it would have been more fun if we had even more people showing up, although might also have been more glitchy, of course, if that had happened. But especially for the second race, more people would have been really fun. But yeah, as you can see, we're starting to get into the more flat part of the track. We're not halfway sideways all the time anymore. So this is where the proper racing starts to come in as well. We're still pretty close to each other here. I think we're battling basically for the top 3 positions here, which you know, that's pretty decent. And yeah, we had some really fun tracks here. You can see we're now in the kind of zigzag part of the track, having to go back and forth here. Just really tried to make it as varied as possible when building this track. I tried to remember some of the things that we had when we were racing on Monarchy on the track that Antonio built. So we have some of the ramps, of course. We just have the zigzag parts, because it's really nice and fun to challenge the driving if you have to change directions a bunch of times, especially with boosting and with ramps involved. We have one of these very big ramps, because that's always a fun thing, because you need to keep up your speed, otherwise it's quite difficult to still get over the top of this. But yeah, as you can see, went pretty well. Plenty of little jumps. Sometimes you want to take the jumps and they're an advantage. Sometimes it's also a risk, because yeah, it seems like you're 50-50 about that chance to get stuck on ramps. It seems like it's very weird sometimes where you get stuck. It feels like sometimes you're just hitting invisible walls everywhere. This part of the track, it started to cool down a little bit. Everything was a little bit more spread out, so you weren't necessarily always racing with someone, and that's of course the most fun experience. So that's why it would have been great to have a few extra people to really make for an exciting race. But in the end, we did actually stay quite close with the top 3, racing and battling it out pretty much all the way until the end, which is of course what you want, what you hope for. Even though we're not necessarily doing the best job, we're still doing a pretty decent job here, defending our position, keeping relatively good track clearance, not getting stuck or turned around as much as we could have. So skipping a little bit of the track, we're now nearing the end. This is the final section of the race. Still battling it out, as you can see, in close contention here for the first 3 spots. Well, first place was gone. The chicken was so fast. Somehow he got ahead by a lot. I think it was because all the rest of us was battling it out for position. He just sneakily drove off into the sunset and we never really saw him again. But you can see me and the blue Jeep here really battling it out for that podium position, although I'm actually not really participating because I was the only one that fully knew the entire track, of course, since I built it, so I didn't think that was very fair. But also my car got stuck here in the end. I've learned that, you know, in most cases it's fastest just to get out, get back in, and that kind of solves everything for your car, and you can just continue driving. It's really an art to drive these battle rigs, but as I said, it's a very fun experience to do, and especially in race format, I really do enjoy it. So definitely something that I think we might do more often in the future. You know, just get some people together, do some racing with the community, maybe for some community prizes or something. But yeah, was a fun experience. And you know, in Jurassic Park, they've got cars, they drive away from the stuff, so it's related enough to be a fun little event for one of these. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the first race, which was really meant to be like the warm-up, of course, getting to know the entire track as we now head for the finish line. But the second part was all about to be much more fun, because we would make duos, so 2 people in one car, and then the passenger would be able to shoot the other teams. So there we go. So this time we're allowed to shoot each other, as you can see, which was supposed to be very fun. I think it would have been even more fun if we had a few extra people, just because then the chaos would be complete. And also we probably should have taken a little bit more ammo, because we're doing 2 laps, because the hope was that we would damage each other, would have to stop for repairs sometimes, people could catch up again, you know, stuff like that. Didn't quite happen in that way, because some people ran out of ammo quickly, and of course if there's only 4 teams, because there's duos in the cars now, then yeah, the chances of losing each other and not really meeting up again are a little bit higher as well. But it was still pretty fun, and especially this first part, you can see it's quite chaotic. It's really fun. We decided to go for the crossbow and flame arrow combination, because then the ammo was quite visible, of course, shooting each other, and yeah, didn't do too much damage to the cars, more importantly, so they wouldn't just instantly blow up, because then, well, the fun's pretty short-lived as well if your car just blows up. But yeah, you can see it's pretty neck and neck here, except one team that was really unlucky with the car just being, for some reason, way slower than everyone else, even though we had all the same specs, which I still don't really understand why, but ARK is ARK, I guess. Yeah, we're still close here. Also not quite sure why our car decided to be bleeding, like it's taking damage all the time, which, I mean, that's not necessarily something weird for cars. They seem to do that quite easily, taking damage, but the bleeding effect did make it a little bit weird. It wasn't me taking damage, as far as I know. I don't think it was my passenger taking damage. So yeah, well, car's just bleeding. We just had to deal with it. Just keep an eye on it and repair it on time if needed. But yeah, you can see this part was pretty fun with shooting the arrows. It's quite difficult, of course, to hit each other, you know, moving targets, shooting from a moving vehicle as well. But there were some shots that hit at least the cars. Hitting the passengers is always, of course, going to be a challenge. It is possible, though. You could set each other on fire if you have a lucky shot. Again, not saying that's an easy thing to do. It's pretty damn difficult, but it is possible, and it was, you know, calculated, because that would, of course, be quite fun, quite panic-inducing if you get hit with a fire arrow, trying to live out that without just burning up in the car. But here you can see that because of course, the brilliant driving of this shark, we started to get ahead a little bit, and we actually kind of pulled away, which wasn't quite ideal for this kind of situation, of course, because the whole thing is about trying to shoot each other. There was also bonus points if you managed to like kill the other team, because that would have been quite epic to do. But yeah, we're taking a lead here, which normally you should be very happy with, but we couldn't help but feel like it would have been more fun to keep this race a little bit closer for a little bit longer. So in the end, we decided to cause some shenanigans along the way. There's plenty of dinos, of course, on the track. We tried to get them in positions that we thought they would maybe draw some attention to the other team, you know, cause some delays for them. And then in the end, we also just decided to straight up wait at the starting line, because we did 2 laps for this. So we just were like, whoa, we'll just wait here. You can see the other team coming in a little bit more broken than we are. That car does not look great. That looks like it's about to just explode, but somehow they kept going. Although I do think they had pretty much run out of ammo already. So waiting for them to do a little bit of fighting wasn't really as exciting as we would have hoped for. But at least we have a battle again here. We have a race on our heads. And little did we know that actually the third team was right behind us as well. So we were about to make this race a whole lot more exciting again, which of course is exactly what we wanted. So, you know, who cares about winning if you get to shoot your friends? That's all you want, right? Here, though, we did lose them a little bit because this part of the track is just very, very weird, because it's kind of like sideways with these steep slopes, and the cars don't really work very well on those. They turn quite weirdly, they get stuck quite easily, but, you know, before long, we managed to get back, and somehow we didn't really lose position. I think they took some time to repair their car, because as you saw, their car was pretty close to being exploded. So we were kind of back into the same part here. We were all by ourselves, so we decided to do a little bit more of an ambush to try and get some clean shots off, because we really wanted to set someone on fire and possibly even kill someone. So we decided to wait here for the next car. It turned out that now all the teams were very close together again. So everything is pretty much caught up again, and the battles were back on the menu, shooting each other, chasing each other. So racing was back on. At this point, it definitely looked like we might have given up a guaranteed first position for a little bit more of a challenge, but I think we were both happily agreeing with that. Trying to get some damage in, but not really too successful. As I said, it's quite hard to hit. Well, not necessarily the car. The car is easy to hit, but you really want to, of course, hit the people inside the car for maximum damage. We weren't really succeeding with that necessarily. But at least we had a challenge again. We had a proper race on our hands. We did get a little stuck here. Not quite ideal, but, you know, racing is back. Racing is back, which is what we wanted. We have the opportunity to shoot each other again, which is also what we wanted. And you can see there's now 3 cars back in the race here. So things are heating up. Things are getting serious. So not only did we now need to try and hit some shots, but I also needed to actually, you know, do my job as a driver and try to still get us in a decent position here. Decent place over the finish line eventually. But yeah, we're doing all right. We're still in first place at the moment, and we got some shots lined up for anyone that dares to get close. My main wing passenger ready to shoot whenever they really got too close. But for a moment here, it looked like everything was going okay for us again. We were pulling away again, gaining our lead. But then all of a sudden we got some new challenges approaching. As you can see, Chicken and his friend are there, Bobo and Chicken, chasing us down. And this is where I don't know exactly what happened what the game did to us, but right over here, you'll see that my passenger gets pushed out of the car. I think because they landed on us. I don't know why that would cause that. Here, I didn't even see where he went. And then I think he bounced off my car as well. Like, didn't really help, of course. So now we were really in the chase because they got quite a decent start. And at the same time, the booster broke, so we couldn't boost anymore. So now it was all back to the driving skills, as you can see. And I decided to display those driving skills right away. You know, I didn't wait a second to display those awesome driving skills, but now we had all of a sudden a long way to catch up to them if we wanted to do any more shooting. I'm pretty sure some arrows were hit, maybe, hopefully. It's hard to see during the race if everyone gets hit, but most importantly, there's some catching up to do now until the end of the race, basically. So this time it is a race. There is a challenge here, and we need to catch up with the chicken and Bobo right in front of us. So pedal to the metal. Of course, we all know the track now, so they all kind of know where to go, what to avoid, what to expect. So it is a little bit more tricky now to catch back up, especially since we didn't really know how much of a head start they managed to get whilst we were trying to get back into the car and everything. And then of course my beautiful spin and display of the skills definitely did not help or delay that we had, nor all of these you know, obstacles along the way. But we managed to get past it until ARK decided to park us there for a moment, just to make us appreciate that part of the track a little bit longer. But yeah, we did manage to get around in the end, but still no sign of the chicken and Bobo, which is quite painful because, well, we kind of made this mess ourselves. Of course, we waited twice for people to catch up, which maybe not the smartest thing to do if you're trying to win a race, but you know, fun is most important in all of these events. Yeah, we did have the Titan here somehow knocking us over a little bit, even though we were quite far away. They have a very big radius of knocking you up. We got a little car chat here as well, trying to catch up with us, trying to fight us, which is promising because the fact that it was running and chasing something kind of made us feel like it might have just seen another team in range, and that is why it was chasing something, hopefully. Although, as you can see, it's still pretty clear here. Still nothing to see, nothing to shoot, nothing to race against. So at this point, yeah, we were starting to worry a little bit that we might have thrown away our beautiful race. And especially when things like this happen, that doesn't help, of course. There's always a bit more confusing when you get teleported back. But, you know, never give up hope. There's a long race. It's a long track, so there is plenty of opportunities, especially since there's multiple ways to go. And as you can see, we see a car ahead of us. And there's actually multiple directions here. You can go left and right. There's not necessarily a better route. It kind of depends on your skill, which one is, in fact, faster. But now that we had a target again, it made it a lot easier, of course, to try and catch up. We can see them there. They slowed down a little bit here to get onto the bridge, because if you fall off, it's pretty much game over with the sharks in the water. They do quite a lot of damage. Cars are very slow in the water as well. So we did manage to catch up with them a little bit. I think some things might be hit here. I remember someone got set on fire at some point. I don't know if that's here or earlier or later in the race, but at least the race is back on. The fire arrows are back in the air as well, trying to shoot each other or trying to lure teams into each other, more like it. Yeah, the race is on. The last part of this race is still gonna matter. It's still gonna be exciting. This really helped for us. They got stuck somehow, which that's just the ARK luck or no luck, I suppose. That it's quite weird. It's part of these cars. It's part of the fun, part of the joy part of the frustration with these races. But so far we managed to get ahead again, but of course there's still quite a long way to go. And as we just saw, there's just one little hitch that's needed to really mess things up and slow you down big time. So yeah, we kind of had to hope that didn't happen, but it seemed like we got a pretty nice distance from them somehow. It's always hard to tell. Of course, this does not help, but it's always hard to tell, like, why suddenly it seems like your car is faster or slower. Like, it feels like it kind of comes in bursts. And I'm not talking about the booster, because that was already long gone at this point. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Of course, happily take it. At this point, we're just trying to stay ahead, but ever vigilant about maybe the other teams getting back to us. Because, I mean, it only takes one little bump or one little surprise. And, you know, we really wanted to go for a nice shot on them, but yeah, didn't seem to get another chance here. The last few hurdles here, we're getting into the final section of the race here, the final big jump before we get back to the finish line. So things are looking up for us. At least we did manage to get back from our little mistake along the second lap. But yeah, I mean, as I said, it's always fun to do these battle rig races. If you have the opportunity to do this with friends or with a group of people, definitely would recommend it. It's really good fun. It's not too difficult to build a track. It's just time consuming. Gates work fine. Just takes a lot of time to place them all down. But it is very fun to race each other in these battle rigs. I mean, it's very fun to race anything. Even the other creatures races that we've done during this event have been very fun. All the events have been pretty fun on this event server. And yeah, I had a great time survivaling a little bit more now here on Ragnarok again before we head into the next map, of course, Valgaro, when that releases. And now I can get back to building. Had a little bit of a, well, not quite a break. I did still do some builds, of course, but a little less than I would usually do, just to enjoy some ARK playthrough in a very different way. Very fun challenge here on the Jurassic Park server. I really enjoyed it. I really loved playing alongside the community. There's plenty of cool builds that we've did, as I said, so those videos will be coming very, very soon as well, just showing you around the entire park, all the cool builds that have been made, and hopefully give you some inspiration for your own Jurassic Park inspired builds. Yeah, there's some really cool ones in there, and I can't wait to properly show you around all of it and see what you think. But in the end, we did manage to get back here to the start, to the finish line, and it looks like there's no one around us to stop us. So thank you so much for joining me today and in this entire event. I hope you enjoyed these videos. I know survival is not usually what I do, but it's sometimes fun to still do that a little bit. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. And for now, goodbye, and time to have a little shockwave.